the first thing you notice is the smell. It's this bizarre cocktail of stale whiskey, a ghost of a scent I can't seem to locate, and the sharp, chemical tang of the lemon cleaner I've been using obsessively. The cleaner is losing the battle. It's been 3 days since Nicholas left, and the silence is the loudest thing in the apartment. It's not just an absence of noise. It's an absence of his specific sounds. The low hum he'd make when reading, the soft thud of his book hitting the nightstand, the way he'd clear his throat before telling a bad joke. The silence is a presence, a heavy blanket smothering everything. His side of the closet is a hollow rectangle of space, a void that makes the whole room feel off balance. I found a single wire hanger he missed, hanging there like a question mark. His electric razor is gone from the ceramic cup by the sink, leaving my toothbrush to stand there looking pathetically lonely. This morning, making coffee was a fresh kind of punishment. I reached for his mug out of habit before my hand froze, remembering there was only one left on the counter. Mine. I'm not crying. I haven't really. There's just this dry, hollow space behind my eyes. Instead, I feel like a medical examiner standing over a body that's gone cold on the table. My body, our body. It's a clinical sort of detachment, a grim necessity to document the wounds before the decay sets in. I walk through these rooms like a crime scene investigator, cataloging the evidence of a life that was abruptly terminated. Let's be clear so you don't waste your time looking for another culprit. I'm the one who killed it. I plunged the knife in, right up to the hilt, except it wasn't a knife. It was a sentence. Just 5 perfectly chosen, devastatingly simple words. They echo in this silence, playing on a loop in my head not with emotion, but with the flat, sterile quality of a recorded confession. So this is what I'm doing now. Sitting in the morgue of our apartment, conducting an autopsy on us. I need to lay all the organs out on the steel table to trace the path of the poison. I need to pinpoint the exact cause of death, even though I know. I was there. I pulled the trigger. I just need to understand why my hands were so steady when I did it. It feels strange, almost sacrilegious, to remember the beginning now. It's like trying to recall the details of a happy childhood photo while standing in the ruins of the house where it was taken. Nicholas, he was the kind of man who felt like a warm library on a rainy day. He managed a small, well-regarded independent bookstore downtown, the kind with creaky wooden floors and a cat sleeping in the window. He smelled of old paper and coffee, and he had this incredible, quiet talent for remembering not just what people bought, but why they bought it. He'd see a customer and say, "Elena, your daughter loved that fantasy series. The new one from the same author just came in." He built a community inside those 4 walls. Our beginning was slow and sweet, built on shared books and long conversations over cheap diner coffee. He was gentle, attentive, and had a laugh that started in his chest and seemed to warm the whole room. About 3 months in, on a quiet Tuesday night at his place, he told me. He didn't make a scene. He just paused the movie we were watching, turned to me with eyes full of a shame that was so old it looked like a part of him, and said, "Sabrina, there's something you need to know about me. Something I'm fighting." He told me about his struggle with alcohol, the good stretches and the bad falls, the constant, grinding effort it took just to be the man I saw every day. And in that moment, a normal person would have felt a surge of compassion, of protective love. I felt that, but underneath it, something else stirred. Something ugly and familiar. You see, my own father was a ghost who haunted liquor bottles, a man whose love was conditional on his sobriety. My childhood was a chaotic landscape of broken promises and slammed doors. Listening to Nicholas, I didn't just see a man I was falling for, I saw a chance. A chance to rewrite history. A sick, twisted part of me, the part that still felt like that helpless little girl, felt a surge of power. Here was a battle my mother had lost, a war I had watched from the sidelines. But this time, I could be the general. I saw a project. A beautiful, broken thing that I, and only I, had the unique strength and experience to mend. So I made him the promise. I took his hands in mine, looked him straight in his vulnerable, hopeful eyes, and I said all the right words. "We'll do this together. I'm with you every single step of the way. You're not alone in this anymore." He cried, a quiet, shuddering relief that should have broken my heart. Instead, it solidified my role. I became his savior. His recovery wasn't just his journey, it was my mission. I researched meetings, I learned about triggers, I poured every last drop of his liquor down the drain with a sense of righteous ceremony. His sobriety became my achievement, a medal I was polishing daily. I was so focused on winning the war, I never stopped to think about the soldier I was sending into battle. I thought my love was his armor, when really it was just a cage I was building around us both. 11 months. We'd made it 11 months, and they were the best of our lives. The shadow that had loomed over him receded, and the man I'd first met, the warm, brilliant, funny Nicholas, was fully present. We were happy. Genuinely, boringly, beautifully happy. We were looking at brochures for a trip to the Scottish Highlands, a place he'd always dreamed of seeing. He'd even started writing again, little snippets of stories he'd shyly let me read. The bookstore was thriving under his clear-headed management. Life was good. The project was a success. Then the call came. The building his bookstore was in had been sold to a developer. They were terminating all leases. He had 60 days to vacate. Just like that, the world he had so carefully rebuilt was being bulldozed. For a week, he was a ghost. He went through the motions, meeting with lawyers, talking to his staff, but the light in his eyes had dimmed. He was trying so hard to hold it together, to be the responsible man he had worked so tirelessly to become. I saw the strain, the cracks forming under the immense pressure. I told him we'd get through it, that he was strong, spouting the same hollow reassurances I'd been offering for months. But I felt a cold dread creeping in. My project was facing a catastrophic failure. That night, he was late coming home. I think I knew the second he didn't answer my 7 p.m. text. When the key finally turned in the lock around midnight, the sound was unnaturally loud in the silent apartment. He walked in, and the smell of whiskey walked in with him. He didn't try to hide it. He was holding a half-empty bottle of Jameson like it was a bomb he was trying to defuse. His face wasn't drunk, not in the way my father's used to be. It was a mask of pure, undiluted self-hatred. He looked broken, utterly and completely shattered. He stumbled to a stop in the middle of the living room, the bottle hanging loosely from his fingers. "Sabrina," he whispered, and his voice was raw with shame. "I'm sorry, I messed up, I messed up." His eyes, they weren't looking for a fight. They weren't looking for an excuse. They were pleading. Pleading for the woman who promised to be with him every step of the way. Pleading for his savior. He needed an anchor in the storm that was raging inside his head. He needed me to throw him a lifeline. And in that moment, seeing the same weakness, the same failure I'd seen 1,000 times on my father's face, something inside me snapped. The trauma, the deep-seated resentment I thought I had conquered, erupted like a volcano. The compassionate, loving Sabrina vanished. In her place stood a cold, clinical executioner. All his progress, all our happiness, it all evaporated, and all I could see was the cliché of a drunk who couldn't handle his life. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked at him, at the wreckage of the man I loved, at the wreckage of my perfect project, and I heard a voice, my voice, deliver the killing blow with chilling precision. "I knew you would fail." The words hung in the air between us, crystalline and cruel. I watched the last flicker of hope in his eyes die. It wasn't like a light being switched off. It was like watching a star collapse into a black hole. He didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He just absorbed it. The bottle slipped from his fingers and hit the rug with a soft, dull thud. And he just stood there, utterly defeated, not by the whiskey, but by me. He didn't say a word, not one. He just gave a slow, almost imperceptible nod, as if I had just confirmed the worst, most vile thing he had ever believed about himself. He turned, walked into the guest room, and quietly closed the door. The click of the latch was the last sound I ever heard him make in our apartment. I stood there for I don't know how long, the echo of my own voice mocking me. A part of me expected him to come out, for the fight to begin. The yelling, the accusations, the tearful recriminations, the familiar, ugly dance my parents had perfected. But there was only silence. I eventually went to our bedroom, my bedroom, and lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, my cruelty a cold weight in my stomach. I told myself he just needed to sleep it off. I told myself that in the morning, we would talk, we would fix this. I would fix this. When I woke up, the sun was streaming in, and the apartment was still. Too still. I got out of bed, a knot of dread tightening in my chest. The guest room door was open. The bed was made. I walked through the apartment in a daze. His clothes were gone from the closet. His books were gone from the shelves. His toothbrush, his razor, his worn-out running shoes by the door all gone. He hadn't just packed a bag. He had surgically removed himself from our life. Every trace of his existence had been meticulously erased, with a quiet efficiency that was more terrifying than any fight could have been. There was no angry note on the kitchen counter. No dramatic, scrawled message on the bathroom mirror. There was nothing. He had simply vanished. I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking. I called him. It went straight to voicemail. I texted him, a frantic jumble of apologies, no delivery receipt. I checked his social media, blocked all of it. Facebook, Instagram, everything. It was a digital amputation. Clean, swift, and absolute. The first few days were a blur of panic denial. He was just cooling off. He'd be back. This was just a dramatic gesture. But as the silence stretched, the reality began to set in. On the third day, I forced myself to do what I'd been avoiding. I started to clean, to reclaim the space that now felt haunted. I opened the drawer of the nightstand on his side of the bed, intending to empty it out. It was mostly empty, except for a small, dark blue velvet box tucked away in the back corner. My heart hammered against my ribs. It wasn't a ring box, it was too flat for that. My fingers fumbled with the clasp. I opened it. Inside, nestled on a bed of white satin, was a heavy, silver coin. A sobriety medallion. It was custom-made. On one side, it had the number 1 encircled by the words 1 year of serenity and strength. On the other side, engraved in elegant script, were his initials, NC, and a date from 3 weeks from now. Our anniversary. He had been planning a celebration. He had been looking forward, confident in his success, in our success. This little silver coin wasn't just a token. It was a testament to his hope, his effort, his belief in the future we were building. A future I had incinerated with 5 words. The cold, clinical detachment I'd been clinging to shattered. The autopsy was over. The cause of death was staring me in the face, glinting under the lamplight. It was murder in the 1st degree. And so, I sit here now, back in the present. The silence is my cellmate, the empty apartment my prison. In my hand, I'm holding the medallion. It's grown warm from my touch, but I can still feel the phantom coldness it had when I first picked it up. It's heavy, a solid, tangible piece of my failure. I've tried to find him, of course. I called our mutual friends. The conversations are all the same, excruciatingly polite and brief. I called Olivia, my supposed best friend. After I finished my frantic, tearless explanation, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Sabrina," she finally said, her voice strained with an unfamiliar formality, I think you just need to give him some space. It's not really my place to say anything." It's the same answer from everyone. They're not hostile. They're just distant, awkward. They've drawn a line, and I am unequivocally on the other side of it. They're not protecting him from me. They're protecting themselves from the fallout of what I did. I have become a social contagion. My mind, the one I've always been so proud of, has become a torture chamber where I'm forced to watch the same 3 movies on a loop. First, there's the calm, analytical documentary, The Emotional Autopsy. In this one, I'm the narrator, coolly explaining my own pathology. It was a classic trauma response, I tell myself, turning the coin over and over in my palm. Seeing him in that state of alcoholic shame triggered a deep-seated defense mechanism, a need to preemptively strike before I could be hurt again, just like with my father. It's a neat, tidy explanation. It absolves me of true malice. It turns my cruelty into a symptom. But then the channel switches. The documentary is replaced by an angry, self-righteous courtroom drama. My voice turns sharp, accusatory. Who the hell was he to put me in that position? I think, my knuckles white as I grip the coin. He was the one who drank. He was the one who broke his promise. 11 months of my life, I walked on eggshells, I managed his life, I carried the weight of his sobriety. And the second things get hard, he runs back to the bottle. Why is his weakness my fault? This version feels good for a moment, a hot rush of indignation that burns away the guilt. It never lasts. The anger fades, leaving behind only the cold, hard truth. And then the third movie starts. It's a silent film, just a single, endlessly repeating clip. Nicholas's face in the moment after I spoke. The light in his eyes extinguishing. The complete and utter devastation. That's when the regret hits, a physical wave that makes it hard to breathe. The what-ifs. What if I had just hugged him? What if I had just said, It's okay, we'll start again tomorrow. What if I had been the person I promised him I would be? Last night, I grabbed my phone, my thumb hovering over his contact, which is now just a gray circle with a name. I typed out a long, rambling message, a desperate torrent of apologies. I told him about the medallion. I told him I was a monster, that my childhood had poisoned me, but that I would get help. I would change, I would do anything. I begged him for one more chance. My finger hovered over the send button, and I just saw him, wherever he is, reading it with dead eyes and then deleting it without a reply. My thumb, acting on its own, moved to the backspace key and held it down until the screen was blank. Then, a surge of that familiar anger came back. I started typing again. How could you just leave? No note, nothing. After everything, you just disappear and leave me in this hell. I got 3 sentences in before I stopped. The futility of it all crashed down on me. I couldn't send the apology and I couldn't send the anger. Both were useless. Both were about me. I threw the phone onto the couch, the thud muffled by a cushion. I'm still here. The coin is still in my hand. The autopsy continues, but I know now it will never end. Because the body on the table is my own soul, and I'm the one holding the scalpel, cutting away at the same wound, over and over again, trying to understand a death I single-handedly caused.